In this video, you will learn about how to check if the number is even and odd in Python. So this video is divided into three parts, wherein we will first understand what is an even and odd number, and after that we will use a modulus operator plus a Bitwise operator to check if the number is even and odd. So without any further ado, let's get started. Whenever we want to find if the number is even and odd, we need to divide that number by 2. And after division, if we are getting the remainder as 0, then we call that number as even. And if after dividing any number we are getting the remainder as 1, then we call it as a odd number. Now in programming, you don't have to perform all this division to check if the remainder what we are getting is 0 or not. There's something called modulus operator that we can use to perform this division, and this modulus operator will return a remainder, and based on that we can conclude whether the number is even or not. So what we'll do, we will set a number variable to 4. That's the variable we need to check if it is even or not. So after that, what we'll do, we will use a modulus operator and we will check if the remainder that we are getting after this operation is 0 or not. If the remainder is 0, then we can say that the number is even, and if the remainder is not 0, then we can say that the number is odd. So this is the simplest way which is used by most of the programmer to check if the number is even or not. Now let's see how we can use a bitwise operator, wherein we will first understand how we can use a bitwise AND operator. So for that to understand, let's take one example so that it could be easier for you to understand. So what we will do, let's say suppose we want to check if the number 4 is even and odd. So what we'll do, we will take a binary representation of it. So the 4 can be written as 1 0 0. Now what we have to do, we have to AND it with the number 1. Now the binary representation of 1 will be 0 0 1. Now when we perform an AND operation on it, we will get 0 0 0, because we will only put 1 if both the bits be 1. So now let's take another number 9 and perform an AND operation on it. We will get 0 0 0 0 1, because the last bits are 1 1, therefore we are writing it 1. Now if the answer is equal to 0, then we will call that number as even, and if the answer that we are getting is not equal to 0, then we will call it as odd. Now let's see how we can write a code for the same. So here what we'll do, we will take a number that we want to check and we will perform an operation on it with 1, and if the answer that we are going to get after this operation is equal to 0, then we will call that number as even. If the answer that we are getting is not equal to 0, then we will call that number as odd. And this is how you can use an operator to check if the even and odd. Now let's see how we can use bitwise OR operator to check if the number is even and odd. So what we have done, we have taken the same two number and we have performed a AND operation on it, and this is the answer that we are getting after bitwise OR operator. Now in order to determine if the number is odd or even, what we have to do, we have to check the answer. If it is greater than 4, which is nothing but the number we want to check, then we will call that number as even. If the answer is not greater than the number that we want to check, then we will call the number as odd. Now to write a code for the same, we just have to make these changes. That is, we have to take the number and perform an OR operation with 1, and if the answer is greater than the number that we want to check, if this condition is satisfied, then we will call that number as even, otherwise the number is odd. And lastly, to use a XOR operator, we have to take this condition. That is, we have to check if the answer is equal to the number we want to check plus 1. If these things are equal, then we will call that number as even, otherwise if the answer is not equal to the number plus 1, then we will call that number is odd. Now to write the code for the same, we have to make these changes. That is, we have to perform a XOR operation with 1, and we have to check if it is equal to number plus 1. If this condition is satisfied, then we can say that the number is even, otherwise the number is odd.